Hello, folks. This is Bob Safale for our Thursday night cryptocurrency webinar, and I'm very happy everybody's decided to attend. We continue to get larger and larger crowds, and there's no surprise to that because there's more and more people who are hearing about cryptocurrency, want to learn about cryptocurrency, want to learn about blockchain, want to learn about digital currency. So this is a very good thing. And I just want to remind everybody before we get started, I just want to make sure you can all hear me clearly. So if you see on the upper right hand side of your screen the little hand, just click on that hand if you can hear me clearly. So let's see if anybody can hear me. Just click on the little hand. It kind of says hi, I can talk, or I can speak, or I can hear. Just click on that little hand. I just want to make sure you can hear me clearly. Okay, there's a lot of people clicking away. Fantastic. Okay, so once again, the purpose of this webinar is simple. Actually, two parts to it. I really want to go over trends that are happening in this crypto, digital, currency world, and kind of where is it going? Where is it going over the next week, over the next month, over the next 90 days? And that'll I wanted to show you what's happening because it's changing so fast. If you understand that the change is very rapid, it gives you insight because and I think one of the reasons that the change is so fast is because you have something called the internet that interconnects literally billions of people. So when there's some issue to resolve or problem to solve or interesting thing that happens in one part of the globe, many people hear it very rapidly on the other part of the globe. So you have a lot of communication all of a sudden starts, a lot of back and forth, knowledge erupts, and that's why I think changes are happening so quickly. And in addition to that, the crypto world and the digital world depends on people who are knowledgeable about, software and hardware and programming. And certainly right now, because of the internet, because of the connections throughout the world, you now don't just have, say, people in Korea developing something. You have people in Korea, then Japan, then over to the US, then up to Canada, then over to Russia, then across into Germany, and it just starts bing, bam, boom all around. So it's a very rapid awareness of any type of adjustment, change, modification, and then you have a lot of people contributing to that change. So hence, why do I go over trends? Because I want to give you an idea of what's erupted right away. That's in the last 7 days. What is continuing to erupt and modify? That's over the next 30 days. And then over 90 days, those things that erupted, then modified, then get, you pretty much can see a market test over 90 days. You'll see, will that adjustment or modification catch on? So eruption, modification, and then adoption. Call it, marketing, call it sales, call it awareness. But you will see whether the new eruption that's modified will then be accepted within the crypto or digital currency world. All right. The second thing I do like to talk about is technology, and once again, that area is changing rapidly. And to start off a discussion on technology, let's talk about our 4 brand new news items for the day or for the week. And this is a very significant modification. This is a technology that can make a very significant change in the crypto world. And that's Samsung is focusing on new energy efficient chips. And these energy efficient chips can make a significant difference in mining operations, crypto miners. And remember, with Bitcoin, crypto miners or Bitcoin miners aren't just effectively generating crypto or Bitcoins, they're also part of the process of transactions. So the easier it is for transactions to occur, the more applications Bitcoin and other, at least blockchain related currencies, can spread out. So if you have more applications, you have more people using the currency or the coins. And the more people that are using the coins, you're going to have more trading. And you're going to have more adoption. And you're going to have more people. And you're going to have more liquidity. So all of a sudden, coins will trade back and forth easier. And this isn't just like your Bitcoins or Ethereums. This is all types of coins. So it's important to understand that as you have more energy efficiency, whether it's in chips, whether it's in the production of energy, whether it's in the usage of energy in the blockchain itself, all of that, if it gets easier and easier to use, more people will use it. And when you have more people using it, all those other things fall into place. So Samsung is seeing a real opportunity to not only make money for itself, but this can have a very, very significant it can have a very significant impact on this whole crypto world. Very significant. So that's always good. The second piece of news, and once again, I guess tonight, if you take a look at the news items that I'm discussing here, I'm really talking about adoption. And the more adoption, I just went through this. The more adoption, the more people using it, the more liquidity, and on and on and on. So the second, I would call it adoption news, is a very large chain of coffee shops that has now started to accept and sell crypto. It's not just accept crypto, which in and of itself is very important. The fact that you have this big chain that is now accepting crypto in their retail purchases, that's very significant. But now they're also selling the crypto, which also leads one to believe that once again in Europe, you're getting I don't know how I should say this, the regulatory constriction of the sales of crypto is getting more and more, it's not lax, it's just getting easier, okay? And I think in part that has to do with, you do have some regulations that are put in place to make sure you don't have some bad actors that are busy developing and doing ICOs and sending out crap in terms of coins. And more people are getting smarter about crypto and more educated, and so when you think of regulation, there of course are people that are honestly trying to look out for people. They look at regulation as a way to safeguard people. Yet of course there's your other half, which are looking towards regulations to benefit themselves personally, to stop things, to protect older paradigms. So, I don't want, all regulation isn't bad, but all regulation isn't necessarily good. So, once again, I thought it was very significant that 130 coffee shops in Europe are not only, taking crypto and doing it easily at a retail level, but they're also selling it. So it's called CycleBit, by the way. So this technology that's making it possible to do retail shopping is getting out there. So for me, that's a very important story. And that, by the way, that coffee shop chain is in Spain. And I have not done enough research yet to say, okay, Spain is a great place to go and operate or do business in using crypto. But obviously, it's letting a coffee shop not just take crypto, but also sell it. I think that's very, very significant. Once again, you have another instance of crypto being utilized, and what I'm very excited about is being utilized at a retail level. Okay, here's the next news item, and this is very, very big. I'm assuming that most of you have heard of, well, a large percentage of you have heard of Fidelity, which is a very big financial institution, and they're all about trading. And right now, Fidelity is getting very, very, they've basically really got involved in bringing crypto trading to the masses. Okay. So this is a big, that's Fidelity Investments, if you don't know them. So essentially, you have Fidelity that has started a new unit called Fidelity Digital Assets. And this company will offer institutional investors custody services, a cryptocurrency platform, obviously in terms of buying and selling, and they are going to be advising their institutional clients. When you hear the word advise, think of the next word, which is fees. So advising equals fees. Fees obviously earned by Fidelity. So Fidelity has now made the decision that, well, hell with it. We can make a lot of fees. And remember, I was talking about I think it was last week, I was talking about the fact that banks more and more have to learn and develop new ways to make money. Okay, because many of the old ways, such as kind of localized banks, teller machines, teller services, even check services, certain type of check service, banks are making less and less and less money. So they're looking for more and more different ways to make money. And, their principal way they make money, banks, is fees. So with Fidelity, they've just opened up Fidelity Digital Assets, and it's a standalone company. And its whole focus is basically bringing cryptocurrency trading to institutional investors. Now, I want to continue to remind everybody, what is an institutional investor? An institutional investor is like a big pension fund, like California Teachers Fund is a mammoth pension fund. I don't know, but if it may be, it may be as big as several $100 billion in monies. So that's an institutional fund, as an example. You have other types of funds that are essentially funds that do the investments on behalf of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. These institutions are heavily regulated, because the government doesn't want millions and millions and millions of people screwed all at the same time. So when you have these big funds that are investing tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, the governments worldwide are just a tad bit protective, you might say. So now you have Fidelity, which I believe is the largest single financial investment institution in the world. I think. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. So now they have started Fidelity Digital Assets, which once again is a company that will offer institutional investors not only custody services, meaning protection of the coins. It's interesting. Custody. They're going to make sure there's custody of the coins, protected, secure custody, a cryptocurrency platform, a trading platform, and advice, which means fees. So that's very, very significant, I believe. Now, let's talk about the next. Once again, these are all examples of the masses getting more and more involved in this cryptocurrency world. The more spread out the cryptocurrency world is, the more it's used, the more people start making money, the more it will be more entrenched. So one of the areas, once again, with Samsung, you have a more energy efficient chip. With the coffee shops, you have the use of cryptocurrency at a huge chain of coffee shops and the selling of it. That's going to affect thousands, 10,000, thousands to tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people all of a sudden will be introduced to the world of cryptocurrency. And then you have Fidelity, which that affects millions of people. Because at some point, when you have these funds and they're making money and profits from cryptocurrency trading, they're going to tell their customers about it. They're going to talk about how successful they've been to their customers. They've got, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of customers. Now, here's the last piece of news, which is very, very interesting. And this is kind of a whole different area. This can, by the way, have impact with Radatech, significant impact for what they've been working on. The Rwanda government is now looking at using blockchain technology to track conflict metal. Now, what is conflict metal? There's also something called conflict diamonds. Well, if you know about conflicts, and they're talking about conflicts as in war, you can have conflicts inside a country, civil wars, and you can have conflicts country against country, which are straight up wars. And many of those wars are funded through, the way they had been funded, in the last 30 years. One of the ways was through what are called conflict diamonds, because they're highly tradable. All right. And you can, if you want to move money over into, say, the Congo, which is in the middle of a civil war, and you want to get money over to the Congo, and maybe they don't have really good money in terms of inflation, people were bringing diamonds in to fund conflicts. And now there are there are precious metals, such as tantalum, that are very rare, and they are being used to fund things. Now, there are fund wars. I mean, wars ain't cool, right? So you don't want to see wars funded. And one of the ways that wars were funded were through very, very valuable things that one could transport in their pocket or in a package or in a suitcase. And that certainly is things like diamonds and super rare metals like tantalum. Now, why is this important? Because there are people that produce diamonds that are selling them for legitimate reasons. And then there's people who are mining diamonds for illegitimate reasons. So if you can track things like diamonds or metals, if you can track them and make sure they're going to the right place or headed to the right place or coming from a legitimate place, and you can use something, for instance, like blockchain, or also Radatech, by the way, okay, same technology that powers Cloudcoin, you can better track these conflict metals or conflict diamonds. So there's another big time application. Now, this is an application that's not going to be a gigantic money maker, okay, but it could be something that can slow down or mitigate wars. I mean, let's face it, it costs a lot of money to finance a war. I mean, let's just get real here. You got to buy guns, you got to buy bullets, you got to buy rocket launchers, you got to buy artillery, you got to buy shells, there's bullets, ammo, whatever. It costs a lot of money for that stuff. Okay? And the simple fact is there are millions of weapons floating around. I mean, they get used in Iraq, and then some of them are stolen out of ammo supplies, and all of a sudden they're shipped over to Libya, and then that war goes crazy, and they have guns from Libya going into Uganda. But you get my point. And you can start slowing that down. I mean, the guns aren't going to flow as much. I'm just going to call them guns, but there's lots of different parts of weaponry. That stuff ain't going to move quite as quickly if there's nothing to pay for it. And conflict metals, conflict diamonds are one of the primary ways. So this is a very good application of blockchain technology. So I think that's a good thing. That can slow down some conflicts, which is always good. So those are my news items for today. My major topic for today really focuses on what are the 3 big changes that are going to affect almost everybody. What are things that are happening specifically with blockchain? I'm going to focus on blockchain because in terms of blockchain, I think blockchain in terms of a massive retail play involving Bitcoin, I think the blockchain will ultimately, at least in that application, become more and more obsolete. But that doesn't mean blockchain is, going away. It just simply means that it's going to be used in other places. All right. And one of those, and so let's talk about the first area I've identified. Okay, and let me pull this down. Okay. So the first area that I think we're going to see some major changes with involves what are called peer-to-peer solutions. Now you're saying, well, what the heck's a peer-to-peer solution? Well, let me make sure our little we're still we're still good. Okay. So what is a peer-to-peer solution? Well, a long time ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, you had a lot of different times when there were transactions. Okay? When there were a lot of transactions. And whenever a transaction occurred that involves money, there are in the past you typically have a third party involved. You would have a person buying, sending the money to a third party who would effectively safeguard the money and then give the money to a seller and make sure that the seller delivered back to the buyer the product or service that was promised. Okay, so I mean that's your classic middleman. Okay, so you have a buyer buying through a middleman to a seller, and in many cases you would have this middleman who is effectively that I don't know how you'd say it, but that middleman would be somebody who was the neutral arbiter, who was going to make sure that the right amount of money came in, the item that was going to be bought comes in to this neutral person, and that middle person flips around, gives the cash to the seller, gives the product to the buyer to make sure it's proper. Okay, I don't care what you talk. I mean, there's millions of examples of that. In the banking world, in fact, that's a very big business. Being the middle person, ensuring that the money is paid, is the proper amount of money, and the services or products are the proper amount in fact, if you take a look at international trading as an example, a lot of international buying and selling of products are done through what are called not letters of intent. I can't think of the term right now, but letters of credit. So you have letters of credit are used because people don't like to send their money offshore without knowing that whatever they're buying is coming back. And that's particularly when you're say dealing with countries where they don't have very strong, the rule of law isn't really powerful in those countries. So there's a lot of people who are a little concerned about sending their money to a country where the rule of law isn't very strong, because they may never see their money again. See, all of a sudden you develop banking services, financial institutions. They develop something called a letter of credit, where people would send their money to a third party. The third party would let the person who is selling the thing know, yeah, we're good. You can send the product, and then the letter of credit can be cashed. All right. So in the world of peer-to-peer solutions, blockchain, which is if you really take a look at what blockchain is, one of the types of blockchains is it's really a software program that you cannot, this is one application, that you cannot rewrite. So you can have blockchain which houses a software program that you can't change. Okay? It's hardwired. I'm trying to use terms that anybody can understand. So if the blockchain says put 5,000 here, deliver five widgets here, and then the transaction automatically happens. So this blockchain can basically, it's called contracts. These contracts are hardwired so that they have to be fulfilled totally before a financial transaction is completed. Now, why is this significant? Because you can get rid of the middleman in many, many, many different ways. There are many, many different situations where all of a sudden people can buy and sell between each other using these smart contracts that are aided through blockchain, okay? That are secured by blockchain. So all of a sudden, rather than having to go through a middleman, you're going to see a lot of old transactions shifted from you to somebody else, back to somebody else, but you're going to get rid of layers. And I'm not talking about it's just one layer. You could have a situation where you have a buyer sending to a person who sends it to a person who sends it to a person who sends it to the seller. I mean, that's your classic supply chain, you know? So if you start taking out those middle people, A, the transaction happens faster, and B, whatever it is being bought and sold, you're taking out a cost center. So all of a sudden, more people can buy it because they can afford it, and more people can sell it because they're selling a lot more. And you should all know, and when you're selling more of something, there's something called economies of scale, where if you're selling 1,000 shoes, the cost to make the shoes is X, and if you're selling 100,000 shoes, the cost of making the shoes is much less. So if you're getting rid of the middleman and people are able to buy direct with complete security and confidence, all of a sudden you're taking cost out, which all of a sudden opens up buying to a lot more people. And because you have a lot more people who can buy and afford it, it's going to cause more widgets to be sold and produced, and the cost continues to drop. So blockchain can ultimately be a major driver in the reduction of the cost of many things. And all of a sudden, the middlemen aren't going to be very happy, but ultimately it will force them to be potentially in a more productive line of work, like they're producing something. So it actually will increase production more and more, and with more production, a lot of people are happier, and the price of things go down, and more people can buy it. You get my point. So that's a big deal. That's something that could affect and should affect, hopefully, everybody in a good way. Here's the next area, okay? And in this, let me go down here. This is another big deal. Okay. Let me pull down. Let me find it. Bing, bam, boom, 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 boom. All right. Now, crowdfunding and donating to charities. Okay, now let's go back to the concept of a smart contract that's obviously powered through blockchain. What's a smart contract? Once again, it's essentially a hardwired program. It's hardwired. You do X, it does Y, Z happens. X, Y, Z, automatic. Nobody can change it. So it gives you more security. Well, I'm not going to necessarily focus on the crowdfunding side of this. I'm going to more focus on donating to charities. Okay, there's been and has been in the past situations where charities promoted that they were going to raise funds for XYZ, and when they got a hold of the money, they didn't do XYZ. They did something else. Okay, and unfortunately, there's been even there are situations where XYZ was done, but they added a couple U's in there. What I mean by that is with, for instance, Wounded Warrior had a situation going on where they were raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and money, don't get me wrong, money was getting to the Wounded Warriors, but there was a little extra money on top that was not necessary. In other words, there was a bit of padding, as you might say, onto the funds. More money was going towards something other than what Wounded Warriors intended, or at least what the people intended when they gave money to Wounded Warriors. So, what I'm saying here is that if people feel more confident that when they're donating money, it's actually going to get all the way to where it should go, you'll get more donations. And on the flip side of that, because of the use of smart contracts, you're going to actually get the donations, the product, to actually be delivered. Like if you're trying to, let's say there's a huge hurricane and it smashes Haiti, and there's 100,000 people who are out of power and food and all sorts of things. Well, wouldn't it be great if there was some type of donations platform that operated on a smart contract where maybe there was a minimum amount of money that's used to administer the platform, maybe 2%, maybe 3%, maybe 5%, whatever, and that 95% of the money that you donated would actually get to the person or persons that you wanted to help? Well, of course, not only would that charity be more effective, more people would be doing better in life. And obviously, kind of the whole point here is that the better large groups of people do, it will help everybody else. Okay? So, and when people are more confident that the money they put in is actually going to arrive on the other side, you're going to have a significant increase in the amount of donations. So once again, that's where this concept of a smart contract is going to have a major, major, major difference. And if you think about it, it can address, for instance, it can greatly reduce the migration of millions and millions of refugees who don't necessarily want to have to, get to a beach, jump in a boat with, 800 other people with a chance that the boat sinks, so they can go across the Mediterranean, get into some other country, because it's the only way that they can get access to food or anything else that they want. Okay? What if more people felt that the money that they were sending to, say, a Syria or a Libya, or it doesn't matter, many other parts of the world where you have refugee movement, what if they had a better confidence that the money they sent would actually result in people getting the money in those? You're going to reduce dislocations of people. That's a good thing. So that's the second big thing that I see. Now, let's talk about the third. And this, I'm telling you, could have a gigantic implication. Gigantic, okay? Improved voting technology. All right. Now, I'm not. I want to be as apolitical as possible. Okay. I'm gonna try to do that. So I'm not referencing any party, not referencing, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Communist Party, no party. I'm just talking about facts at this point. A news piece came out just the other day that in LA County, 144% there of, let's say there was 100 people there, 144 people are registered to vote. Okay, there's 144% people that are registered versus the people that are there. So 44% more people are registered than actually live in LA County. Okay, so there's probably a problem there. And vice versa, there's problems in other areas as well. So you have issues in voting. And you have issues in voting, certainly not in just the United States. You have issues in voting in, country after country after country after country. All right. Once again, if you have a secure system, as you can have with blockchain and smart contracts, you can actually finally bring full security or much higher security to the voting process. All right. People can finally feel, I feel really good about this. This could address, for instance, and I'm not saying how, I'm just saying it could address the issue of people who, don't have a photo ID or can't get a photo ID. All right. You could assign essentially a identifier that could, once again, I know people are very concerned about having themselves identified with a particular number, but there's different ways this can be done so it's still anonymous. But my point is ultimately for people to vote, they're going to have to show some type of identification. So identification is going to happen. Now, if we can make sure that the identification truly is true, it's not fake, it's not false, that's a huge. Now, blockchain could certainly work there. Things like Ratatech applications, once again, Ratatech powers CloudCoin. The area of digital security or digital authentication or digitally secure authentication is going to, at some point, affect the voting world. I'll give you an example of that. There was a conference, I believe, last week where you had a lot of hackers there. And you had a number of folks that were attempting to, hack a voting terminal. An 11-year-old hacker hacked a voting terminal within a matter of minutes. A matter of minutes, an 11-year-old hacker. So this, when you start, more and more people start getting concerned about the integrity of the voting system, it's very, very tough running a democracy if there are concerns about voting, obviously. So we believe that this area of voting is going to be impacted dramatically, maybe not next week, maybe not even in 90 days, but we think within 12 to 24 months, there are going to be some breakouts in this area, and that will affect everybody. So those are the three areas that I believe that you're going to see a very significant things occur. Peer-to-peer solutions, that's going to drive down cost, make for more productivity, more people happy. You're going to have charities that are dramatically better funded and people who actually get help and people who actually know that their money gets to people that they want to help. And then last but not least, you have improved voter security. So I think those are three huge things. Now, before we get to our big drawing, I want to point out that we now have our cryptocurrency quiz, our IQ test, and we had our first group of people do the IQ test. And boy, you should have seen the results. A lot of people were very, very surprised. Well, we are now going to open up the IQ test again. And when we open it up again, we are then going to make available the digital experts training available again. And you will, people are still, a lot of people are still buying in right now to digital experts report, which is training all about the cryptocurrency world and how to find coins, how to sell coins, how to, what type of wallets to use, different ways to make money with crypto. We're going to go ahead and open up the special offer that we gave to a limited number of people before of 5,000 cloud coins. Whoever does the crypto quiz, we want people doing the quiz, and if you buy the Deer training, which is very low cost, you'll get 5,000 cloud coins. So if you do the quiz and you buy the course, we're going to get you 5,000 cloud coins. So if you're interested in getting the quiz link, the IQ test, the cryptocurrency IQ test, just email me at bob@digitalcurrencygrowth.com. bob@digitalcurrencygrowth.com, and put in the subject line IQ test. And then sometime tonight or tomorrow, I'll get you out the link, because we'll probably get a lot of people responding to this. And then you do the test, and you're going to have access to the Deer training. And here it is right here. I think you're going to like this. We've added a lot more courses, a lot more speed lessons. We're doing some really cool notices that are going out instantly. A lot of extra stuff for our Deer training. And if you do the quiz, you got to do the quiz. And then if you buy the course, you get the 5,000 cloud coins as a bonus. Okay, so let's get started with our drawing for 5,000 cloud coins. And we have a lot of people tonight, so our number is even higher on who is here. Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bang. Let's see. Whoa, number 164. So whoever came in here tonight and is the 164th person, you will get 5,000 cloud coins. I want to remind you, just think about that. We get cloud coin up to $1, and those 5,000 cloud coins are worth $5,000. Just think about that for a little bit. Okay? All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for attending our webinar. I hope you liked the subject matter, and have a very good night.